Hello again, everyone. We're going to skip the questions that had all correct answers and just look at the questions that had many different responses. I'm going to show the individual responses on the left and the group responses on the right to see how your answers changed. It's pretty interesting. Question 13 says, both the male and female walrus has large tusks that make them prime targets for attack by ivory hunters. Most groups went with B, has, but there are some C and D answers too. This sentence has a problem with subject-verb agreement. These trick a lot of students. Sometimes people will only look at the end of the subject instead of the entire subject. So if you just look at female walrus, then has looks okay. The female walrus has. But that's only half of the subject. The full subject is both the male and female walrus. The best way to handle questions like these is to look at the entire subject and try to convert it into a pronoun. Then it's easier to do subject-verb agreement. So what is the pronoun for both the male and female walrus? We're talking about two walruses, so the pronoun would be they. If they is the subject, then the verb would have to be have. They have. So the correct answer is B, which is what most groups chose, so this is correct. Number 30. Each lichen consists of an alga and a fungus that lives together in a kind of plant relationship. Again, subject-verb agreement, but this time we're dealing with a relative clause. You can attach a relative clause to the subject or the object of a sentence, but the verb inside the relative clause has to agree with the noun it is describing. In this case, the relative clause that lives together in a kind of plant relationship is describing the object, an alga and a fungus. So the verb lives needs to be live, so that it agrees with an alga and a fungus. It looks like there were many different answers when you were working alone, but once you discussed with your group, everyone got it right. So this one is correct. Reading 1. John Maynard Keynes.
Hello there.
Question 1. The group answers changed quite a bit from the individual answers. In your individual answers, the most popular answer was A, but once you talked to your groups, the majority chose B. Now, some groups still chose A, but the reading only talks about Keynes' general theory, which was his most significant work, so the correct answer is B, and most groups got that right. Question 5 wants you to choose the word that is closest in meaning to enlightened in line 10. This is hard because all of the answers are difficult words. You either know what these words mean or you don't. You can't use a dictionary when you take the test, so you have to make your best guess. Most groups answered D, but many answered B. The word enlightened means that you are smart or you have some important knowledge. The closest word to this is prudent, which means you have good judgment and you can make good decisions. So the correct answer is D, and that was the most popular answer. Question 7. What is the purpose of the third paragraph? Let's take a look. The first two sentences are explaining the analytic method of standard economic theory. The first sentence says what it is, and the second sentence says what it does. The third sentence is really long and confusing, but it is showing what Keynes did that was different. It says, in breaking with this tradition. Now, this tradition is the analytic method of standard economic theory that the first two sentences explained. In breaking with means to disagree with or to separate from. So this means that Keynes disagreed with this methodology. And that's the important point of this paragraph, because the entire essay is talking about Keynes' ideas. So the correct answer is A, a methodology that Keynes disagreed with, and only one group got that correct. Reading 2, theatrical costumes. Question 17. It can be inferred. So let's stop right there. It can be inferred means that we have to make an inference. To infer means to deduce or conclude something from evidence and reasoning rather than from explicit statements. That means you won't find the answer in the essay. You have to use your brain power to decide which answer is the most likely. Now this question is about something specific, the courtiers of some European kings, and it wants you to infer what they were expected to do. So let's look at the sentence about them. The courtiers of James I of England and Louis XIV of France were splendid enough in their ordinary attire, but when they took part in a masque or ballet, they were more magnificent still. First, what is a courtier?
Hello.
It doesn't matter because you can't use a dictionary. But from this sentence, we can see that they are people who worked for kings. And they looked splendid in their ordinary attire, which means their regular clothes. But when they took part in a masque or ballet, they were more magnificent still. A masque and a ballet were both forms of entertainment. So the correct answer is B, perform in certain entertainments, and only 2 groups got that correct. Question 20. It can be inferred. Again. What did Renaissance dramatists think of Turkey? Let's look at the reading. In late medieval and Renaissance drama, the long ago and far away were represented, respectively, by draped garments and by turbans, as well as other items suggesting Roman and Turkish dress. Okay, so that means Rome equals long ago, and Turkey equals far away. So the correct answer is C, a remote and exotic country. Several groups got that right, but not the majority. Question 21. The author implies that 19th century costume designers were more concerned than their predecessors had been with... Let's look. Gradually, however, European theater became aware of specific peoples such as American Indians, Hungarians, Russians, and Chinese, and in the historically minded 19th century, the whole of the past and every corner of the globe were studied as sources of theatrical costume design. So, as we saw in the last question, in medieval and Renaissance theater, Rome equals long ago, and Turkey equals far away, because that's all they knew. In the 19th century, they knew much more, and they studied different countries' styles so they could be more accurate. So the correct answer is B, accuracy, and most groups got that one right. Question 24. Add this sentence. Is it A or B? Line 4 or line 15? Well, it should go here, because this paragraph is where they are talking about the amazing, gorgeous, splendid, magnificent costumes. The line we want to add is also about rich display, which means the same thing. Several groups got that correct, but the majority answered A. Finally, question 27. Lots of different answers. Which of the following is an inappropriate summary of the information presented in the passage? This is an annoying question because you have to find the one answer that isn't correct. A. Theatrical costume has historically tended to overstate the essential qualities of the characters. That is true. B. Theatrical costumes are generally more conservative than ordinary dress. What? That's the opposite of A. C. Theatrical costume has become more historically accurate. That is true. D. Theatrical costumes have significantly changed over the years. That is also true. So the best answer is B, and most groups got that right. And the class score is... ...50 out of 54 again. Good job.